Good day, children. Today we are going to focus on a poem. To begin with, let me ask you a few questions. Have you seen a forest? Yes, we have seen it in pictures, cartoons, and movies. What would you find in a forest? Yes, lot of trees, animals, and even birds. Have you ever gone to a forest? Do you want to visit any forest? Will you take your friend along with you to visit a forest? In our poem, A Jolly Old Vagabond, we find two friends traveling within the woods. They have a remarkable sight in the middle of the forest. What was that remarkable sight? Let's find it out by reading the poem. The Jolly Old Vagabond is an anonymous poem written in 3 stanzas. Anonymous means unknown. The person who wrote this poem is not known, unidentified, unknown. Let's begin with the first stanza. One evening, when Philip and I were out walking, we saw in the forest the glow of a fire, and somehow we knew it was best to stop talking whilst pushing through tangles of black thorn and briar. One evening, when Philip and I were out walking, the poet begins by saying that in the evening time he went out for a walk with his friend Philip. We saw in the forest the glow of a fire. Suddenly they saw a fire in the forest, and somehow we knew it was best to stop talking. Seeing the forest fire, the poet and his friend were shocked and they stopped talking to each other. Whilst pushing through tangles of black thorn and briar, the forest was largely filled with black thorn and briar plants. Black thorn refers to an European tree which has a dark trunk and filled with thorns, whereas briar refers to plants which have thorny stem. Example, rose plant. Such trees and plants were intertwined with each other. Moving to the second stanza. And as we drew near, the sound of a fiddle came stealing so gaily the branches among. And there in the clearing, alone in the middle, we saw someone jigging and singing a song. In the second stanza, the poet continues to explain about his travel. And as we drew near, the sound of a fiddle. The poet and his friend continued to walk in the forest. They heard the sound of a fiddle. What is a fiddle? Yeah, it's a musical instrument. The sound of a fiddle came stealing so gaily the branches among. The music that came out from the fiddle was happy for the reason it was able to travel among the branches of the trees. And there in the clearing, alone in the middle of the forest, the poet and his friend saw something. What did they see? We saw someone jigging and singing a song. They saw a person who was all alone in the forest was dancing and singing a song. Coming to the last stanza. In the final stanza, the poet tries to give a description about the man who was dancing and singing in the middle of the forest. A jolly old man in a coat torn and tattered was bowing and scraping, so happy and gay. His shirt was in ribbons, his hat bent and battered, but he sang and he danced in a wonderful way. A jolly old man in a coat torn and tattered. The poet says that the old man was happy and he was wearing a badly torn coat, was bowing and scraping, so happy and gay. The old man danced merrily by making gestures like bowing and drawing his foot along the ground. His shirt was in ribbons, his hat bent and battered. The old man's shirt was torn into pieces, and his hat was bent and damaged badly. But he sang and he danced in a wonderful way. Despite his bad clothing and the forest fire, the old man danced and he sang wonderfully.